Hello, Juno community. Welcome to another episode of the Inside Scoop. Today, we have been talking to WYND. WYND has been walking us through their mission of how they want to save this planet, how their DeFi applications play an important part in that role. They've explained and presented the features of their new applications, new updates, and also we have been talking a little bit about their tokenomics and much, much more. So a very interesting interview. Let's head straight into it. Thank you so much for having you on. How are you doing, guys?
Doing great.
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's dive straight into it and look a little bit about the core mission, because I think that often gets forgotten. You have a big aspect that is around refi, and it's not only about building DeFi products, but maybe you can lead us a little bit more into that. What is your core mission? What is WYND trying to do?
Do you want to start, Fafo, or should I?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so the big thing about WYND is that we want to use advanced COSM-WASM contracts to implement interchain DeFi protocols. So that's kind of like one of the core missions there. And with all of those protocols, there are going to be fees that are generated. So 25% of those fees go to an environmental sub-DAO, which is still being established. If you jump onto our Commonwealth, you can join the discussion that Ethan started and kind of see like what that's going to look like and even help to shape it. So with those 25% of fees that go to that environmental sub-DAO, those will be given as grants and invested into these environmental projects that are helping to improve the environment. So it's not just like giving money away to them and donating, it's really like investing into these businesses.
Exactly.
Awesome.
That whole thing came historically and grew. I don't know if you followed, or like the guys watching this followed the whole progress over the last year. But WYND started with winning that hack atom, and we started with that. Like we divided the whole planet into hexagons, and you could bet on those hexagons if the environment gets better or worse, and you can win or lose money with that. And we got feedback that it's not working out like we planned back then. It was a prototype. And from that feedback, we were, like the last year we spent thinking about, okay, but how could we combine that technology of blockchain, which is great, with the actual problems in the environment. And what Pavlov just explained is our way of solving that issue.
Awesome. Yeah, I have some questions prepared more about the specifics of how you will use blockchain about that. But I think before we dive more into like specific details, can you show us what you have right now? Can you show us the WYND DEX and all the features that you have built, and maybe show us some alpha?
There we go. All right, so when you first come into the WYND DEX, you'll see this dashboard screen. So the first thing you're going to want to do is come down to the bottom and connect your wallet. You can see all the different wallets that we support: Kepler, Leap, Cosmos Station, and then a couple mobile options. All right, another cool thing that people may not have noticed is down here in settings, you can actually change from USD to Euro, depending on where you're at. I feel like that's a really cool feature.
Oh,
and you
nice,
can
yeah.
also onboard and off-ramp fiat using Cato. So no need to use a centralized exchange. You can bring fiat straight onto WYND DEX.
Awesome.
Okay, so looking up at the top, we have kind of your total assets. You have how much is bonded in liquidity pools. You have how much is available, as well as the Juno and WYND price. And then you have total rewards. So when the DEX first started, we didn't have this claim all button. You had to manually go in and claim each rewards. So it's really cool that already that this button was added. And rewards are distributed hourly on the 20-minute mark. So 24 times a day, you get your liquidity rewards, and you can compound those, swap them for another asset, and really just do whatever you want there. So it's nice that they come so often. Coming down a little bit, you have all of the tokens that are currently supported on WYND DEX. You can see the whole list there. You can switch to native and then Juno assets like CW20s, and you can also use the search feature to find like the specific one that you're looking for. Yeah, so that's the dashboard. Let's jump into the swap page. Here, it's going to be very similar to other DEXs. So new users shouldn't have too much of an issue here. You have the token that you want to be swapping there, and then you can choose which one you want to go to down on the bottom. So you can go through the whole list here, and you can also use the search feature to find the one that you're looking for, and then same thing for the bottom. And you can also click here to switch these back and forth. Let's see, we also added a historical price chart for all the different pairs that you pick. So, that was just a really nice feature that was thrown in there already. Big thing to keep an eye on at the bottom, we have the rate. So, what's going to be swapped there, and where the prices currently are. You have the swap route, you have the swap fee, and then you have estimated slippage and the minimum amount that you'll receive. So a big thing to keep your eye on is the slippage. On the DEX, if you come up here to the gear, you can see that the default is 1%. You can change that to 3 to 5% or enter a custom amount. I would say, for most users, they would just want to stick with that 1%. And if the slippage down there is exceeding that, you can likely find like a better swap route. So instead of going from this to that asset, you could switch to something else that has more liquidity to get that lower slippage amount. So just for this example, let's swap a Juno into WYND. So you want to hit swap. The Kepler window will pop up, approve that just like normal. And the swap will go through on the next block.
Nice, very smooth UI. I think everyone should feel at home quickly in how it looks. It looks very nicely designed as well. I like it.
Yeah, so that's really our swap page. All right, so let's jump into the pools. All right, so up at the top, once you've either added liquidity or bonded liquidity to a pool, you will see all of the My Pools that come up there. You can see like the current APR for the 42-day unbond. You can see the total value locked, and then you can see how much your shares are, and then the total liquidity broken down for each token. So since we had swapped, a Juno for a little bit of WYND, let's find the WYND Juno pool. You can see, the current APR, and then you can see the total value locked in that pool. Let's go ahead and open her up. Yeah, you can see that again right up here. So let's go ahead and add some liquidity. Let's do 4. Okay, perfect. So once you've added liquidity, you have 4 options here. You can go with the 7 days, the 14 days, the 28 days, and the 42 days. Now, these are your unbonding periods. And as you go to a higher and higher unbonding period, you get a corresponding higher APR, which you can see listed there. So I'm going to go ahead and bond max liquidity, and I'm going to do 28 days because there's a feature next that I would like to explain and show to everybody. Let's go ahead and bond to the 28th day. Same as always, approve that Kepler transaction.
I have a feeling I know what's coming next.
Okay, and then there we are. We're bonded to the pool. You can pull down the show liquidity pool assets, and you can see how much of each asset you currently have in the pool, as well as the total amount. So scrolling down a bit, you can see the APRs. They're always going to be listed there. Here is where you could claim the rewards individually, but since I just bonded, there won't. Well, actually, it looks like there'll be rewards in about 3 minutes here, so we could refresh and see that. Okay, so here's going to be the big piece to look at. You can see my bonded liquidity. So we're currently in the 28-day unbonding. You can see the current APR, and then you can see the amount of LP tokens that you have. So if you come over here to manage, we have some interesting options. You can increase your bonding, rebond up from the 28 days to the next higher tier, which is going to be the 42 days. You can also decrease your bonding and then unbond. So let's say I wanted to go from the 28 to the 42 days. I would just go to increase bonding duration. hit next, and then I can enter the amount of LP tokens that I want to do. I'm just going to go ahead and do max. And then you get a little thing that's explaining what's going on here. So when you rebond up, it's instant. So you go from the 28 days to the 42 days, and you immediately begin earning that higher tier APR.
And when you go down, I assume I get from the 14 days until I hit the 14 days unbonding period, I still have the higher APR. And then after 14 days, when I'm downgraded, I get the lower APR. Is that correct? Or will I also immediately get the lower APR?
So you do immediately begin to earn the lower APR. And instead of it being instant, so let's see. Yeah. So now we're here. So if you want to decrease back down to 28 days, you do immediately begin to earn that lower tier APR. So you would go from getting the 42 days to the 28 days. And rather than it being instant, you will have to weigh the difference between the two periods. So since I'm going from 42 days to 28 days here, you would have to wait 2 weeks or 14 days until you can rebond down or rebond back up again. But you do continue to earn APR during that process.
But which APR will I earn now?
So since I yes. So since I rebonded back down, as soon as you rebond down, I would have gone from earning the 42-day APR back to the 28-day.
But that's what I mean. In the next 14 days, it stays at 240%, right?
No. So it will be immediately you begin earning that lower tier APR.
Okay.
Yeah. So it goes down. So then we wait the 14 days and then we rebond down to 14 days from 28 days. You'll immediately begin earning that 82%, and you'll have to wait another 14 days. And then you rebond down from 14 days to 7 days. You'll have to wait that week, and you'll immediately begin earning that 41%. And then you unbond once you're on the 7 days, and you do not get rewards for that last week. But then once those 7 days are over, your liquidity is it's liquid again, and you can withdraw from the pool.
But then if my goal is to unbond, I'd be better off just unbonding straight away from 42 and get, like, for the last 42 days still the high APR, right? While I'm waiting for it to unbonding instead.
While unbonding, you will get no APR.
Oh, you get no APR at all while unbonding. All right. Okay. Then it makes sense.
Exactly. So this rebonding down, it's a similar system to osmosis. You begin earning that lower tier APR, but it allows you to keep getting rewards as you unbond down. So I would definitely, if you want to go to those lower tiers or even get your liquidity fully out, I would not unbond. Make sure that you rebond down each tier so you continue to earn.
All right. Yeah. Then it makes sense. Then it makes a lot of sense.
Oh, definitely. And if you're ever wondering like how much longer do I need to wait, so it'll tell you exactly the day and the time that the rebonding will be over. Yeah, so you can come down there and see exactly when it's going to happen.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah. So let's see. So that's the dashboard, swap, and pools page. Why don't we jump into the new upgrade that we have?
Oh yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, so we got a lot of, sorry?
Oh, I was going to say, so before we had that separate governance app, and, it was a little clunky, maybe going from like 2 different apps. So we wanted to integrate everything straight into the DEX.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That definitely makes more sense. So that's nice to see.
Yeah, so our long-term goal is to make out of those multiple WYND apps one big app, which we internally call the WYND suite. And we got a lot of feedback about the, that fork from DAO is outdated and slow and doesn't work like as it should be. And to solve this, we said, okay, let's go just integrate that in the app we have in the new one. So if you could click on governance and stake. By the way, this feature should come out next Tuesday, so most probably today when you guys watch that video. So yeah, this is the new main governance page where you guys can stake all your tokens. You see your voting power, the unstaked tokens, the current stakes, and also the locked tokens. There were a couple of requests. Hey, why can't I move my tokens? There is that weird vesting error And here you can see, okay, in Pavlov case here, he doesn't have any vested tokens, but normally that should, like show the tokens that are vested, that are currently rebonding. And I think there are, oh no, there are not rebonding tokens, and the currently unstaking tokens. So this is pretty straightforward. If you click stake Pavlov, it's the same UI than you have in the pools. We really want to have it as similar as possible, so users won't get confused here. If you click on governance again, just close that, and on vote, then we have all of the proposals here. The complete staked amount, 18% right now of all tokens, and we have a list of all of the proposals. Many users asked, hey, can we have in that list, in that overview, our votes, or like a better overview of what proposal I already voted for and what not. That's something we implement on the very left side here. And yeah, we just wanted to try to give users a better overview about what's going on in the governance right now. If you click in one with Pavlov. Yeah, so we tried to use the same layout than in the old app, but faster and maybe with a little bit of adjustments. So the overview gets better again here. All right, that's our changes to the proposals. If you go into gauges. So gauges were a really, really big topic when it came to feedback. Many users, as it's new, don't really know what a gauge is and why does a gauge has an ID. Are there multiple gauges, stuff like that? And we really tried to improve that UI here. And as you see, like that whole voting ballot there, the choose a pool drop down, and also the current votes for the next epoch are things that I think are really, really improvements compared to our old app. Another thing that we plan here is to show the ongoing gauge votes, so historical gauges, but they are following later than this one.
Maybe you can explain real quick what the gauges actually are and how they work and how they influence the DEX.
So a gauge,
I think that's also something a lot of people don't really understand.
So a gauge is more or less, so we have each gauge has a set reward and a set a reward amount and a set epoch. In this case here we have 7 days and 231,000 WYND. So it's similar to incentives. Those 231,000 WYND are getting distributed over a week each. But in what pools they are going to get distributed is something that's decided by the community. So the community can actually participate and vote for the pools they want to see those rewards. And if we take the list on the right side, for example, that's for the next epoch starting on the 6th of February. And for example, we have here WYND Juno pool, and 26.3% of the 231,000 WYND would be distributed in that pool over the 7 days of the epoch.
Awesome. Does that mean a project that wants to incentivize its own pool could buy WYND and basically bribe their own pool in the gauge?
Yes. So you could buy in WYND, stake it, and vote for your pool. That's definitely possible.
And
it's really interesting. We've actually started seeing a lot of projects doing that. They're rallying their own communities who stake WYND to come and vote on their own gauges, and some have even started buying WYND themselves. So that's kind of the whole point of like all these DeFi protocols will be driving value to the WYND token itself, and the gauges is the first example of that.
Yeah, definitely. It drives demand, right?
And also important to mention is if I stake now and vote and unstake again, the amount of my voting power changes dynamically. So for example, I stake, I don't know, 100 WYND now, use that voting power here and unstake it, then my vote is gone again. So you really have to be an active member of the community to participate on a longer term here.
So I need to like vote every week again when the
the votes are not going to be resetted. But if you unstake your tokens, what you voted with, then your vote is gone.
No, maybe let's clarify. We plan to implement, to add reset voting after around 3 months, for example. to actually see through inactive users to make sure that all users who vote are actually engaged.
Nice, that's good. Does my lockup period also have an influence on the voting power, similar to how it is on Curve?
Yes, so I can actually show that here. So depending on what, can you guys see that new graphic?
Yes.
Okay, so depending on the unbonding period that you choose for staking, you have the 1 month, 3, 6, 12, and 24 months. It has an impact on the rewards and your voting power multiplier. So the green here is your voting power and the blue is the rewards that you get. So you can see 1 month, you get that one-time multiplier for voting power and then 2 times for the rewards. And it goes all the way up to 24 months. So you can see that, you know, if you choose a 2-year unbonding period for your WYND, you get a 24 times multiplier for your voting power. And that's because those who, you know, if it takes you 2 years to get your WYND back, you have a strong incentive to focus on the long-term health and sustainability and growth of the WYND token. So we want to give people who have a higher, you know, stake in the game, more voting power over WYND. So that's kind of the whole purpose of these different unbonding periods.
Awesome. Yeah,
and
that
this
makes
is
sense.
for both gauges and proposals.
Okay, for the proposals as well.
Yes.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that makes sense. Is there anything more you wanted to show, or should we just go on with some questions?
Maybe just to make it clear for everyone here, because I had seen some users that were like adding their vote power there, submitting vote, and then doing it again and again. So you're actually resetting your vote every time doing that. So let's say like I want to do, so you have like 100% that you can divide between all the different gauges. You can give 100% to one pool, or let's say I want to do like, I don't know, 25% to WYND Osmo. I can
Oh, you already voted.
You have to remove the WYND atom pool from the left side.
Oh, yes. Okay, so let's say I wanted to add like 25% there, and then you can choose the next pool that you want to do. Yeah, well, that's actually, yeah, I really like that. Yeah, so you can add up to 100% and then submit your vote there. So you don't have to do it separate times. Make sure that you see all the pools you want there and then add your percentages.
All right, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good. Then let's move on with some questions. We have been diving a little bit into that one way to drive some value and demand to the token. You talk a lot about that you want to make the token sustainable in your white paper as well. What other mechanisms are there to counteract inflation? Because obviously if you have 3-digit APR on your pools, we have quite a high inflation. So is there any deflationary mechanism, or how is the value that the DEX and future products that you create, they create value? How is that value captured for the token so that the token holder also benefits off of that?
So a big piece to remember is that the even the tokenomics of WYND is decided by governance. So there was a proposal that passed to do, for the next 3 months, there was 1 million WYND that was minted. And each month, 1 million WYND is going to be used as internal incentives. And then at the end of those 3 months, governance is going to have to come and decide if they want to decrease or increase that number. So just kind of the tokenomics themselves on the docs page, I believe it is 42 million WYND is the maximum that can be minted for the first 8 years, and then after that it drops down to a lower number. So if you do end up minting the max, it'll be after 20 years a maximum supply of 888 million WYND. But all of this can be adjusted via governance.
All right, so the community can obviously lower inflation if they want to. But yeah, but let's dive a bit into the value capture mechanism. So is there how will the WYND token holder benefit from the value that's created?
So all of the protocols that are implemented, just like the gauge system, are going to be governed by that WYND token. So it really does drive a strong value to buy, hold, and stake the WYND token to be able to govern all of these DeFi protocols that are coming out.
Okay, cool. Then let's switch gears a bit and get into the more environmental stuff, the refi part of it. In a white paper, you write you're planning to gather lots of data about carbon, living biomass, biodiversity, degree of human intrusion, pollution. So really a lot of environmental data. How is that data gathered, and how does the WYND token play a role in this? Is it just for governance? Will it be used to pay the people that gather that data and incentivize them? Or will it be used for people to buy that data and we get kind of like a data marketplace? Like, what's the plan there?
It's actually really interesting because the environmental DAO is not set in stone and established yet. I think I had maybe mentioned earlier, there's a Commonwealth discussion right now that Ethan had submitted that's really talking about setting up and starting this environmental DAO, especially now that we have the first DeFi protocol and many more coming sooner than many think. So, these exact mechanisms are still kind of ongoing and being developed. So, we certainly have some ideas that we discussed on there, but we really want input from the community as well to really get this established and started.
All right, so this is kind of very fuzzy. It's an idea that was written in the white paper, but there is no actual plan yet developed. And as a community, we can actually get engaged and be a part of making that plan and how it should be realized. I think that's cool.
Yeah, that's actually also a bit related to the stuff I told you in the beginning of that interview. Like it all started with that hexagons, and also in that docs you were talking about the oracles. We mentioned those hexagons. So our plans shifted a bit from what we planned in the beginning, which doesn't mean that it's not longer planned, but we just have to think about priorities. And now the DEX is launched. We have a couple of other DeFi protocols. And yeah, as mentioned before, like the governance and the community can actively decide with us what to do next.
Awesome, that's cool. Then shifting gears a bit again to DeFi, especially DeFi on Juno, right? I think, well, and in the whole Cosmos ecosystem, but especially also on Juno, like DeFi has been struggling because it feels like osmosis is just capturing all the volume. Everything is happening through osmosis. What do you think needs to change within the ecosystem that we can develop a flourishing DeFi ecosystem on Juno and have like a multipolar Cosmos ecosystem when it comes to DeFi protocols? What has to be done there?
I think one of the main things, going back to the DEX specifically, is that WYND DEX is not seeking to compete with osmosis. We really want to consolidate and strengthen the Juno ecosystem. So bringing the CW20s, bringing Juno back to the Juno ecosystem and really holding it here. And, the very interesting thing, we can't get into too many details right now, but all of these DeFi protocols that are going to be launched are going to be interchain and potentially interchain to all CosmWasm based blockchains. So these protocols won't just be within Juno itself. It can go to, I think, over half of the blockchains and Cosmos right now have enabled CosmWasm.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of like the idea is to have its own niche, which is specifically all the Juno token, make sure that we have the best liquidity for the Juno tokens actually on the Juno network, right? And therefore, yeah, differentiate. But in general, yeah, I think we need more DeFi on Juno. We kind of need to build this as a known ecosystem. So it's cool that we build something up here and that we kind of find ways to differentiate ourselves. And then when we are talking about Juno, like why have you been choosing Juno as your blockchain, and what value can you bring to the Juno community? You're mute.
Hello, is it working
Yeah, it
now?
works again.
Okay, sorry. So yeah, in the early days of WYND, we discussed a lot about on what chain we should launch and whatnot. We were talking about Osmosis, Juno, but also other chains in the Cosmos. Obviously, for us, the most important thing was Cosmos, because of Ethan's background and also my background with Confio. So that was really important. And then, like Juno is talking about being the home of Cosmos, and that slogan alone is very important for us. And also that permissionless developing is just very, very easy. You can just deploy what you want, which makes it a lot easier for developing teams. What we like what was the second question?
What you bring to the Juno community,
yeah.
how you bring value to the network.
So I think the most important thing right now for Juno is to get more builders, to get more teams actively participating with more projects. I really like to see that is going on right now, especially in the last couple of weeks again. And before that, it was, yeah, I mean, bear market and stuff, right? Yeah, we keep building. As mentioned before, we already have the next protocols in the pipeline, what we are working on. The next UI upgrade comes next week. And we launched like 2 weeks ago. And if we can keep up that pace, I think Juno's really, really profiting from us and our work.
Awesome. Yeah, that sounds great. And I definitely agree. It's awesome to see that building activity has been increasing a lot lately. So yeah, where can people find you? Maybe share, yeah, your socials and your page and where people can find you guys.
So I would say the main place to start is on our landing page, which is wynddoa.com, WYNDDOA.com. So on there, you'll see our Twitter link, Discord link, our Telegram link, Commonwealth, and GitHub. So that's kind of like the main places you can start from. And then from there, you can definitely see everything else that we got. But I would say the Twitter page would kind of be the main one to follow for updates.
So unfortunately, the video had cut off here, but a huge thanks to the WYND team for taking the time, talking to us, being on the show and showcasing their decks. It was a huge pleasure talking to them, and also a huge thank you to everyone who has been tuning in, watching and listening this show. So thank you so much, and see you again next time for the Inside Scoop.